So guys, switching to English. Yeah, today's meeting is one that I wanted to give for a while. It's around my proposal for a vision for MetaPortal. Some of you might know some of it, but I guess it's a good idea for us to all sync up around this. And also, I would love for this recording to be shared with the community to get feedback, to get excitement, like all these things. For all of this, I have prepared a presentation so that we can have something to look at. So let me share my screen. And do you guys see my screen, the slide?
What's up, everybody? Sorry I'm late.
So,
What's up, Ty?
okay.
Yep, George, all good.
Okay, you're seeing my keynote now, but now that I am in full screen, you're probably just seeing my slide, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, yeah, I have named all of this MetaPortal in the grand scheme of things because over the last couple of weeks, I was thinking of what is the MetaPortal's place where things can go. A lot of feedback was given to MetaPortal, what it could be. And in order for you to understand like where I'm coming from, I need to tell you like where I'm coming from. So this presentation is essentially going to be my tale for the metaverse, where it could be like a tale of games, metaverses, and how it could be the centerpiece to enable Web3 games to flourish. So OG MetaPortal idea when we started the EnterDAO, even before the EnterDAO, was like a random conversation with me and Z. And it was like literally just the conversation went like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if there is an aggregator for metaverses so that I don't continuously go ahead and to try and Google like what was this cool metaverses that I was into. Like, wouldn't it be cool if there is a single place where I can go ahead and access them all. And this is how it started, like because we were wanting to service metaverses through this MetaPortal, and this is like how all this was called. But then what we started thinking is that metaverses essentially they're just this subset of something bigger that we can call Web3 games. And Web3 games are essentially games with or without storylines. So games with storylines could be your Axis or your favorite RPG like Illuvium or Ember Sword, or they can be games without any storyline like a plain old vanilla metaverse like CryptoVoxels or Decentraland, but they all exhibit very similar traits. They all exhibit very similar pain points. And we feel that we're going to be able to service all of them. So essentially, what now I'm going to be like talking about in the next couple of minutes is going to be around this statement here, that with MetaPortal we can enable and accelerate the next wave of games that are based on Web3. So first of all, why should we do this? Well, we should do this because Web3 games are going to be better. How are they going to be better? How they compare with the traditional games? First of all, centralized games are normally operated through censored platforms, while Web3 games are operated through open blockchain-powered platforms. Web2 games are popularized and pretty much fed on the scraps left from decentralized platforms they run on, while the Web3 games are judged by their merit by the open market. Why all these things happen? Well, first of all, there are huge commissions to the platforms. So in Web2 games have essentially, they need to give away a lot of commissions to platforms, to payment processors, etc. While using crypto, potentially, obviously, all of this is looking and taking into perspective that crypto is still in its infancy too. But using crypto is going to make use of the crypto efficiencies that are essentially cut out a lot of middlemen. Web2 games are funded by few and based on negotiated price for like VC stuff, while Web3 games could be funded by the market based on their merit of the game and the team behind it. Web2 games are managed behind closed doors, while Web3 games could and probably will be managed and developed in the open. And last but not least, game and investors in Web2 games essentially retain ownership and control on assets and characters of the players normally, while with Web3 games, players normally going to own their assets, they're going to own the economy, they are going to own their characters and the whole ecosystem as a whole. Obviously, like there is this disclaimer here that like we cannot generalize all Web2 games and we cannot generalize all Web3 games, but like I'm speaking from the perspective of the general population of Web2 games that are going to be obliging to these rules and these setbacks. Last on this side, in terms of money, like Web2 games are normally siphoning money to the few behind the game, behind the company that's developing the game, while the Web3 games are going to be siphoning the money into the players, governors of the games, and the otherwise members of the community. Like this is something that's general for Web2 versus Web3 businesses, but I wanted to enumerate it here. So TLDR, Web3 games will be player-driven, they'll be player-governed, and they're going to be economies of themselves. So what does this mean for MetaPortal? Well, first of all, this means that Web3 is going to be a competitive advantage for games. Web3 games are going to have less or even maybe no middleman costs. They're going to make use of crypto efficiencies. They're going to be community-driven. They're going to be tapping the wisdom of the crowd from day one, which is, I feel, is a game changer. Cross gaming and cross promotions are going to be enabled, and new, interesting, unique business models are going to be enabled just by you using Web3. And what are these business models? Well, first of all, we can have the legacy business models, but they can be optimized. Like when we say legacy business models, you can think of this trial plus subscription or buy the game once and use it forever type of legacy business models, but you can optimize them through crypto. You can make them censorship resistant, community governed, and yeah, you can essentially optimize these business models. But you can have different business models in terms of, you can have asset-based business models in terms of having a limited edition characters and selling like almost like a merchandise in your game. You can have your in-game cryptocurrency that's essentially be governing your game, be a resource in your game, or the very popular these days play-to-earn type of models where you can have like your in-game resources marketplaces where you can earn resources, sell them in the marketplaces, and make money out of all of these things, which has been game changer for some nations and for some games. So my point is that you can have like awesome games and you can add Web3 to them, and you can have these AAA3 games that are even better than the AAA games at certain things. But obviously any game needs players. So Web3 games are probably going to be better for players too, or at least this is my thinking. Why is that? Well, at least you're going to have the same level of games at lower costs, but why not even having higher grade games at lower costs? Because of all the efficiency that crypto is going to introduce in business models. You'll have their like the player's voice is going to be actually mattering because they can be governors. Everything is going to be governed probably in public and be transparent. Game decisions, again, with all the DAO notations these days, probably is going to be transparent. And last but not least, like something that's like a major difference for players is the true ownership over assets and ability to earn from them. And about the metaverses, like how they fit in all of these things, because like the initial idea was about the metaverses. Well, metaverses themselves, they exhibit something super, like they are just a subset of Web3 games, and they exhibit the same pros and the same cons. Like you can have your Web2 metaverse, like we can all wave and say hi to Zuckerberg here, but like I believe that Web3 player-governed, player-owned, community-owned metaverses are going to be better, and in the long run, and even in the middle run, they're going to be better, and they're going to outperform the others. So the MetaPortal, what does all of this means to MetaPortal? So since the birth of MetaPortal, we have been calling it the like Steam, but for Web3, or Steam for blockchain games. But I think that this does not do this justice. Like it's much more than this, and it could be much more than this. So this is why I'm calling this here like Web3 Steam plus plus. How these two compare? Like both Steam and MetaPortal can enable users to discover and play games. And they can enable game devs to list their games and integrate with ready-made business model solutions. Obviously, if my vision is realized, like these two can be true. But only MetaPortal can preserve the user's sovereignty over their accounts and assets. It's going to be censorship resistant, and content is going to be community governed, and is going to be powered by blockchain. So in this sense, like just saying it's a Steam for Web3 is for me does justice for MetaPortal. It's probably much more than that. So for me, the mission of MetaPortal can now actually become a twofold mission. First part is giving the tools to Web3 games to outperform the Web2 games. Like I feel that MetaPortal, I'm convinced that MetaPortal can do this. Like we can create the tools for Web3 games to be AA3 games, and they can outperform the Web2 games. And I'm seeing these signs already. Like if anyone is paying attention to Illuvium, like you can see AAA grade of graphics at least. Let's hope we see a AAA level of gameplay too. But the second part of the mission is exposing the traditional gamers to the benefits of the Web3 game. So these two things combined together for me is going to make MetaPortal a centerpiece to the upcoming Web3 games trend, to the new wave of games. And this new wave, I feel, is going to change the gaming experiences pretty much forever. So MetaPortal could be Web3 games enabler. It can enable game discovery and popularization. It can enable something that I call the MetaPortal SDK, which is the enablement of integration with MetaPortal that can enable the support of business models like the optimized crypto payments, like optimized legacy business models, and the censorship-resistant access to games. Web3 can be game enabler, so Web3 games enabler, like MetaPortal can provide tools for non-crypto native gamers in order to experience the Web3 games. And obviously the gaming ecosystem that we can create in terms of finding new friends, chatting, streaming, all these things. MetaPortal can enable you to essentially create business models and create games that abide to bring your own assets type of gameplay. Or it can enable business models supporting integrations like in-app storefronts. This is something that I think can be very, very powerful. So how can we do all of this? First, like what does MetaPortal needs to be? It needs to be a wallet. What do I mean by being a wallet? Well, it needs to enable for people to access games through this unified account. And because we are a decentralized platform, this probably needs to be the so-called wallet. Maybe we can find a better word, but yeah, we need to enable this decentralized player sovereign access to games. Then we need to create the MetaPortal SDK, which needs to have like a wallet blockchain connection. It needs to have initial efficient crypto payments and crypto subscriptions. It needs to have the ability to enable games to integrate with their own game storefronts that are part of MetaPortal, and have token on ramps and token swaps easily inside the SDK, so that all of this could be done programmatically. We need to provide advertising and popularization tools. Like we can have auctions, advertising space in the MetaPortal itself, because at a certain point we are going to attract a lot of eyeballs, and we would need to have a fair way to enable different games to advertise there. Users and tokens curated games list is something that I feel is going to become important. This is the Web3 version of ranking and rating systems. We can have and we should have like early access to games, exclusives in games, and even something like fundraising campaigns so that we can support games even before they launch. We can enable them to have the tools for them to fundraise and launch this game based on just the merit of their idea and their team. Gaming ecosystem is the next thing that we should enable, or the last thing that we can enable, essentially enable you to have the ability to have new friends, Web3 friends, and chat with them, and obviously streaming ability because streaming and gaming these days go hand by hand. And yeah, this is my vision in terms of what I feel personally that MetaPortal should have. But because all of this like is under the umbrella of EnterDAO, and EnterDAO is community governed, like anyone can choose their ending, anyone can contribute to this, anyone can change this vision. Like this is my foundation that I would like for us to have a discussion, for us to figure out how to make the ending. And yeah, this is pretty much what I wanted to show you guys, and hopefully to give you some inspiration in thinking like where and what MetaPortal could be. Credits to all these folks in terms of adding and contributing stuff for this presentation. And yeah, pretty much this is it. This is what I wanted to share with you, and let's have a discussion around this. I heard the pop, so probably somebody. Okay.
I'm actually a massive fan of this. I feel like when I originally wrote this, like, here, I'll drop it in here for everyone to see this, like, tweet storm about D64 is, sorry, I don't have my camera on because I really don't feel good today. But basically it's talking about like how all the games will like all of DeFi and gaming will essentially start to like merge together, where people really won't know, like almost like you're gamifying finance, and then we'll bring it to other like sectors. But the bigger component of that was, I don't know if I ever like wrote down like a full on like thesis for D64, which is just explaining what that theory is. It's like what I named the fund that we all invest out of is like a syndicate, but I just more mean like the actual thesis of what derivative 64 is. And basically one of the biggest like bull statements that I've had on gaming in particular up to this point, and it's why I think the game that George has been playing around with is so cool, and like one of the reasons that I really like aped hard into Illuvium is that I think like the first like walkable metaverse type game that actually wins doesn't like have to be the best game in the world. And 10 years from now, like imagine Grand Theft Auto, where you can like drive up to other cities, and like it literally just started as I actually have like a YouTube video on it right here called The Evolution of Grand Theft Auto, because I was talking to someone about this yesterday. And like it literally just started as these little like pixelated games that we're all seeing in like crypto right now, and then it moved to like what it is now. Well, if you think like Grand Theft Auto could even get into like space travel and stuff, is this like ever immersing like metaverse? Well, you can essentially go up to games in that game in order to play it. So like the areas of the game that have like the most foot traffic, that land is going to be valuable because it would essentially be a portal into other games essentially. And like if you have the most played game, like Grand Theft Auto doesn't have to be the funnest game in the world anymore if it just is basically what you can use to navigate to all of the other games. And that's why I think that having like in-game technology built into the concept of what y'all are doing with MetaPortal is pretty immersive, because I think that's like whoever gets that right is, I mean, that's essentially why Facebook is going after this, is like that's the carrot they want.
Yeah, absolutely. I can totally agree. Anyone else with the questions or discussions that we can have?
Well, obviously we've been through this, and I love all of it. But I think what's really interesting in terms of like the DAO itself, that MetaPortal opens up a bunch of business models that MetaPortal can take, and I'm really interested to see how those develop. Obviously, we've discussed smart contract-based ad space auction, games launch pads, and stuff like that. But I'm really interested to see how the DAO governs the product and in which direction it goes and where it goes first as well.
Yeah, agreed. It's going to be interesting. Like even the business models that are going to be successful, maybe they're not even created yet.
Yep.
Truth. Okay, cool. Word. I'm going to stop the recording now so that we can share this with the community and we can have other discussions